What is up, y'all? What is up? How you doing? Feeling good, feeling great. How are you? Robin Lundberg show back in full effect for you today. And I just wanted to ask a bigger, broader question today. Because first of all, I have to say this. The WNBA offseason, and I've said this before, but the WNBA offseason is the longest offseason in the history of anything. Like it's interminably long. I can't believe it's still more than 2 months before the season starts. Think about that. More than 2 months before the season starts. 'Cause May 17th, I think, is the first game. It's not even March 17th. Obviously, we're 2 weeks away from that. So, like, you know, gonna be a minute until we actually get WNBA action. And I could continue to go over the free agency stuff, and I will some of it, but like I feel like I'm talking about the same stuff over and over again. So I wanted some audience interaction today. And one thing that came out this morning was more of the same when it comes to Caitlin Clark. I mean, again, this ain't really breaking news either, but home court advantage. Let me first say this about the first bit of information. Home court advantage. Iowa, the Fever are headed back to Iowa to play a preseason game against the Brazilian national team on May 4th, as you see there. So that's a preseason game. Sold out. 15,000 seats sold out in well under an hour. Didn't even hit the general public. I don't even know how it works. Let me just say it was a lot of demand, not enough supply. And then at the same time, there's announcements made about a venue change for other preseason games against the Mystics. Who's one of the owners of the Mystics again? Everybody in the league should be on the cover. But they're moving to a venue that holds 14,000 people in Baltimore. Some of the other preseason games were moved as well, by the way, in full transparency, but they were moved to a 10,000 seat arena. I don't know if that has to do with scheduling or not, but fact of the matter remains the Fever games going into the bigger venue, just as the case was last year. And these are preseason games. So the novelty has not worn off. The novelty is not worn off. And you go back to last year, we know how much of a discussion point Caitlin Clark was. But in said discussion point, there was so often I would hear qualifications. Like she is one of the biggest stars in basketball, male or female. Or she is the biggest star under a certain age, right? And I'm not so sure she's just not the biggest star in American sports. I say American because it's hard for me to gauge worldwide when it comes to soccer and how popular that game is. But let's go back to the NBA All-Star game for a second when you're talking basketball. Who was the draw, it felt like then, that they were trying to get? Caitlin Clark. Right? And it took for the NBA for the big Luka Doncic trade to happen to that put some juice back into the league a little bit. Luka teaming up with LeBron. And look on pedigree and history, it's LeBron James and Steph Curry. But in this very moment in time, are they generating as much buzz? I don't think so, to be real. I don't think so. I mean, the WNBA All-Star game got close to the same number of viewers as the NBA All-Star game, which is wild. And again, these preseason games are moving. And I think what people thought with Caitlin Clark is it would be more Tebow mania than Michael Jordan, but it's much more Michael Jordan, changing the course of the sport, like Jordan did, or Jordan, Bird, and Magic really before him. I'm Michael, Magic, and Bird all rolled in one. If I ain't better than Big, I'm the closest one. Or as the thumbnail said, excluding nobody. Look what I embody. And you go to the NFL, which is the single most popular thing in this country, I believe. The NFL doesn't have those individual stars to the same degree. I feel like the individual NFL player I hear the most about is Travis Kelce right now. And we know why. mean, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady recently retired. I mean, even when you go to the soccer and football world, the soccer players that are most often mentioned are on the older side, still Messi and Ronaldo. And when you talk about like things like what are other tangible measures? I mean, we can talk about ticket sales, we can talk about ratings. 18 million people watched the national championship game last year. We saw what happened with the WNBA season, but even like the trading card market, Clark's cards, I think the WNBA cards outsold the NBA cards recently for the first time. Her card is being graded at the same level as like Victor Wembanyama's and anybody else's. Or right in that ballpark. Like basically any sort of metric. But I'll say American because that's my frame of reference. However, I don't know if it needs a qualification anymore. Caitlin Clark's the biggest star in American sports. Biggest name in basketball right now, male or female. Again, the NBA All-Star Games pursuit of her kind of proved that. The trading card market kind of proves that. Now we're seeing WNBA preseason games sell out, being moved to bigger venues. Baseball doesn't, Shohei Ohtani, perhaps internationally, is on that radar. Football, like I just said, I hear about Travis Kelce more than anybody else, and that's because of the connection to Taylor Swift. But has anybody discussed more, talked about more? What was it said on, was it Chenny Ogumake said it? Doesn't move the needle, is the needle? That's correct. That's correct. So we'll get to the comment section on that in just a second. Like I said, there were some more comments and the like on free agency from across the board, specifically with the Fever. Right now, Aaliyah Boston spoke out from Unrivaled. She talked about how the Fever players were involved in the decision. So when you hear about like protecting the locker room was consulted.
Aaliyah, it's been a busy offseason, obviously, for Indiana, lots of new free agents. I'm curious for you, in your standpoint, somebody that did not have to decide where to go and you're still under contract, what kinds of conversations do you have with members of the front office during the offseason? Is it normal to just kind of like not do a whole lot of talking because you're doing your own thing, or are you kind of in the loop sometimes for those kinds of conversations?
Yeah, definitely in the loop. I think the front office did a great job of including us with who they were looking at, how they thought they would fit with us, which I think is always super important because when you have a squad like we do, you want to continue to make sure, like, oh, I definitely think they would be a good fit, or I think they would be a great fit. Maybe not so much, but I mean, everyone that the front office brought and talked about, I mean, I was super excited about, and I think we see that now with everyone that we've signed. I'm super excited for what's to come with the Fever squad because I definitely think it's going to be fun.
There you have what Aaliyah Boston said. Um, on top of that, the other people have commented. Lexi Brown, who's now on the Seattle Storm, she talked about the Fever free agency and the moves that were made on the Full Circle podcast here.
Indiana, some people were saying, might have had the best offseason of any of the teams.
I agree.
What are your thoughts?
I agree. They gave Caitlin some dogs around her.
They're not playing.
They're not playing around. They gave her some more shooters. Natasha Howard, I think, was their best signing. I think people forgot what type of player she was while she's been in Dallas. She's a great defensive player. She can go out and give you 30. She's a great screener, which is going to be very beneficial to Caitlin.
For Caitlin, yeah.
DeWanna Bonner, just having that veteran presence and energy, like she can go make big time buckets for you. Sophie Cunningham, just her energy alone. I'm excited to see her back at her natural position, which is the 3. She's actually been playing the 4 for quite some time in Phoenix, but she's been doing a good job considering that's not her natural position. And then, of course, re-signing Kelsey Mitchell. I remember saying last year before the season even started that they're going to go as Kelsey Mitchell goes. She started the season hurt and came back. And after All-Star break, her and Caitlin found this balance and this cadence that made them very hard to guard, which is why they were able to make the playoffs. So I'm excited to watch them. I'm actually also excited to play against them. I think all the noise from last year, obviously, is going to be there, but you add a ton of veterans that supposedly were hating on the rookies, but all wanted to go play with her. Like, they wasn't hating. They was pissed that we have to chase her around all the time. But when you get the opportunity to play next to a player like that, you're going to go. So I'm excited for them. I'm really excited for Kelsey Mitchell.
So that was the comments there from Lexi Brown. She wasn't the only player. Courtney Williams from the Lynx also talked about the Fever and their free agency on what's the name of the program here? On Her Turf.
There's also a lot of movement going on in the WNBA. There was so much movement during free agency, and you guys are all at Unrivaled while all this movement is happening. And I know like the Lynx did not have as much activity as everyone else, but just what is your reaction to all the movement in the WNBA this free agency season?
I mean, I think it's exciting. I mean, anytime you seeing all of these players that you're used to seeing in certain jerseys about to be in a different environment with a different organization, like that's gonna be crazy, man. I thought AT about to be in Phoenix. That was crazy for me because I'm like, dang, okay, DB going to Indy, Natasha Howard going to Indy. Like, Indy about to be stacked. Like, Indy about to be looking good. I'm
Super
not
team?
gonna lie, like, Indy about to be a little scary. Like, we ain't scared, but they gonna be a little scary for other people.
Trying to throw that super team stuff in there on the Indiana Fever. I mean, look, the super team stuff is a little silly to me just because the New York Liberty were a super team. If you look at their roster that just won the championship, the Las Vegas Aces with all those Olympians were a super team. If that's the definition that you want to apply, I think the Indiana Fever did a great job putting a super team together, building around their piece, because the only reason anyone would ever throw the word super team or the words super team around the Indiana Fever is because of Caitlin Clark in the first place, right? Like, it shows you what you actually think of Caitlin Clark. If you think adding a couple players to the squad makes them a super team immediately, because really what that shows you is what's the word du jour? Courtney Williams just used it, right? Scary. Courtney Williams of the Lynx in talking about the Fever. Sydney Colson said the Fever would be scary. I think people realize the Fever are going to be scary, and their contention, if not their championship, is coming sooner rather than later, which is a scary, quick coronation for Caitlin Clark in that sense. But, you know, great free agency for the Fever. I don't know any other ways to really put that or say that or express that. You know, those are the kind of big picture takeaways from the offseason, which again gets me to say, like, how can the WNBA offseason be so long? And then the last thing, I touched on this on several of the individual videos, so you can check them out on the channel and go back on it. But did want to live salute Diana Taurasi for the career that she had. And I think, you know, there's so many different superlatives and accolades you could throw her way. But I think that the biggest compliment I can pay to Diana Taurasi is, with so many people coming into the WNBA sphere and women's basketball sphere recently who are newcomers to the game, and part of that, you heard the big talking points. Well, if you're new, you have to pay respect to those who came before, those who laid the foundation. And, you know, when Caitlin Clark was on Saturday Night Live, she did that, right? She listed off a lot of people who did pave the way and pave the foundation. And it's unfair to single out anybody in that discussion because there are lots, right? Cynthia Cooper and Candace Parker and Maya Moore and so on and so forth, Sue Bird. But if you want to have me say, like, who represented women's basketball for me in my lifetime, in my generation, before what we've seen of late with Caitlin Clark and the rest of the stars, it was Diana Taurasi. It was Diana Taurasi. She was the first one that, like, grabbed my attention as a dude who was watching NBA basketball and men's basketball. It's like, yo, check her out. And of course, that's like the most superficial thing I can say, because I can go and you can list all of her accomplishments and they're all plural. Everything that she did, all the winning that she did. And then there's the other stuff that comes along, like her acerbic wit and how quick and competitive and all the stories you hear from everybody else. But in the big picture standpoint, I think that does matter, right? Like, if you had said to me up until very recently, what's the first face you think of when you hear women's basketball? It is Diana Taurasi. So a hell of a career when you can go from seeing Gino Auriemma before he had gray hair to, seeing Caitlin Clark and Paige Becker's going to watch her at UConn. All these things, obviously Diana went to UConn as well. It's a tremendous career, and it is worthy of all the praise that it has gotten in the last several days. I'll get to the comment section here in just a second. Please like, subscribe to the channel, all that. We can get back to the topic that I framed the video around, of course. Super chats, member chats are read first, as you all know. And please, those help me and help support the channel as well. And look, there ain't that much going on, so whatever you want to throw my way, I will get into as well. Let's go to the super chats. We got one from Ken Swift. Nice videos, super team. Ken, look, in a way, he's a content creator, right? Because he gets a lot of I don't know what he's doing now. He's got like his bat cave or whatever, his Clark cave that he's in, but he gets all these clips and circulates them. So thank you for the good work that you do. I like those shirts that you have out there too. Obviously a huge prominent face in CCFC, but the reason he said the nice videos thing is because I think both of the videos that I shared were directly off of his X account. Let's go to Kevin Zwicker. If Bron and CC were on the same street corner, who do you think has more people come up to them? That's a good question. It's a little, that could be LeBron because LeBron is so instantly recognizable. He's size-wise, he's 6'8", right? That makes a little bit of a difference. I think Clark has a better chance of going incognito, but he's the only one that I would even put in her class right now still. Maybe Steph, because Steph the thing about Steph is he's a ratings draw. But LeBron also suffers, from fatigue in a sense where he's been talked about so much for so long. There's not really anything else to say. Right? And even with LeBron, I don't remember LeBron ever being thrown into the kind of discussions all the time. LeBron's the first person, though. Look, if you were to look at me personally, right? I did the video for SI. The video that got me my job at SI was a LeBron being the greatest basketball player of all time or best basketball player of all time, however it was phrased. This was in 2017. Before that was like, the argument, the number one track on the sports talk radio greatest hits album, LeBron or Jordan. And then, I started that one with a Jay-Z quote too. I've already dropped a couple today, so I might as well throw another one in there. Hove got flow, though he's no big in Pac, but he's close. How am I supposed to win when they got me chasing ghosts? All right. And that's what it must feel like for LeBron James to chase Michael Jordan. And that video wound up getting 10 million views. And I remember joking around with people back then that we could do a LeBron James show every day or a LeBron James segment every day. And look, Skip Bayless made a career out of hating on LeBron James, and ESPN has made a programming slate around talking about LeBron James every day. So trust me, as someone whose career was probably most well-known, if you were talking about for one athlete before now, for me, that was LeBron James. So I understand his import and his gravity. But I also been doing this 20 plus years. And I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like with Caitlin Clark, where what LeBron came to was already built. He became the biggest talking point within that. And he became, I think, the test subject of the social media era, patient zero kind of social media. But I never seen one person change the course of maybe Tiger Woods is the closest in my lifetime for golf, but change the course of a sport individually. And forget even just the league, but like a sport. All of women's women's sports, I could even argue. Beyond just basketball. I could argue women's sports in general. But to answer your question, it might be LeBron just on instant recognition. Let's say Space Jam 3, it's going to be CC. Let me get to the top of these sections again. Those were my first two super chats. Like I said, super chats, member chats, getting read first. Ngaka Patrick says, bro, there's literally Messi, Ronaldo in this world. Don't get me wrong. CC is big in America, but Messi and Ronaldo are gods in the sports world. No sports figure can, I'm an arrogant American. I was talking about America. What does the rest of the world matter? Doesn't matter. Only America matters. You know that. No, I'm just kidding. But just where they're at now, like Messi's in the MLS phase of his career. Once you're in the MLS phase of your career, it's not the prime peak of your career anymore anyhow. So there you go. Messi quitting football to play soccer as well. There you Mrs. Stacy B says, yes, she is. Question answered. Sorry, trying to make my way through the chat. It's hard to sort through. Chosen One says, Drake album #1, hater. No, it's not. It's like #2 or #3 on this week's charts. I mean, I think GNX and it were going head-to-head. They're like battling for the number. And that album's been out 14 weeks versus Drake's, which was out, it went #1 the first week it was out. He put 20-something tracks on there. He gamed the streaming system, even though he was being suppressed by the machine. I'm just having fun at your expense. I tried to listen to it, by the way. I wasn't going to listen to it just to hate on it because, I don't think I've said a thing publicly about it until now. It's the first, you just got the first public words from me about the Drake album because I'm not trying to just listen to it to hate on it. That's kind of lame behavior, really, to be honest with you. I tried and I had to skip through everything. Even the Give Me a Hug record was the only listenable record for me. The rest of it was weird crooning and even that one was kind of whining. And I don't know. I just don't relate to anything he says, and nothing he says moves me. And I don't like the way he talks about women either. Yeah. And Kendrick had 4 of the top 5 records in the world on Billboard. That's pretty good, right? For somebody who doesn't make hits, that's pretty good. But the record also fell 60% week 1 to week 2. Since you're trying to dunk on me. I wouldn't say I'm his #1 hater, though. But I will say, so hater, I'm kind of a Drake hater. That is fair. But I don't like his music. I don't know what else to tell you. AJ Schreiber with one of the biggest inside jokes you'll ever see that I can't reveal the contents of the second sentence of his. But he says, Robin, you are the absolute man. Best of luck in your career. Let me just say I received an email with that as a sign off, and it was a chuckle for us in our group chat. And I'm Kevin is also in here, who's the biggest Drake fan in the world. And Kevin and AJ, we're in a 3-way group chat. And those guys were fans of mine, and now they're confidants of mine. And I'm pretty relentless with Kevin about Drake in the group chat, so I almost apologize. I do sometimes feel bad. All right, let me get back on track here. Where are we? Again, guys, super chats and member chats are appreciated. They help me sort through everything we have here. I got a ton of chats. It is very hard for me to I do need that moderator, as they say. Who is it that keeps telling me to have a moderator? Somebody keeps saying it, but they're right. Starscream says, I despise soccer, but the answer is CR7 or Messi. Clark isn't even close. Yeah, again, I think, like I was saying, American team sports. I mean, I think you kind of, or American sports, I think that was kind of implied in any of these discussions. Because if I was doing a talk show on the radio, right, like I'm not talking about Messi and Ronaldo there either, but it's fair to bring up. I'm not crapping on the point. So, Kevin, how many different stupid-ass songs is Drake going to have where he's just naming random girls? Didn't he do that? Didn't he do that on, did he do it on First-Person Shooter? Like, okay, we get it, dude. Fine. Aren't you 40 years old? Stern, a.k.a. Chris, says, never has there been a person who has made so little by a league that has brought this kind of attention. What kind of return on $77,000 does any other person get than CC? Well, I think that's what her agent was basically saying too, right? Remember those agent comments that for some reason got some weird blowback? Which I'd never understood. Because, like, her agent, first of all, is speaking in terms of, like, the WNBA and the CBA, where there's, just like with LeBron, he has a max contract. He's not getting paid more than his contemporaries. And the same thing is going to go for Caitlin Clark. You could argue in the past you could never pay LeBron his true worth, and you can't pay Caitlin Clark her true worth. And I think the context of what Chris says there kind of hits on that. Tula plays you wrong about that. Bronny is not bigger than CC. CC's bigger than Bron right now as far as like drawing just attention. The way I never seen nobody talked about the way she was talked about last year. That level of discourse on every forget sports show, like across the board. That was different. I mean, look, LeBron, I don't know, has he ever played in a game that's been seen by 18 million people? Maybe the Olympic game was against France. But certainly not in his playing career, his professional career. Not that that was a professional game. HT says she's great. She's popular, but nowhere near the international popularity as Luka. I mean, I don't know Luka's international popularity. Relative to the NBA players, I would say Luka is... I mean, I think it's LeBron and Steph are the two most popular NBA players still. I don't know who's next. It's still those two. Well, Tula plays. This is also not a fair comment that the WNBA still made a loss last season. I mean, the WNBA's been operating at a loss forever. They just signed a new media rights deal off of last season that more than tripled their current media rights deal. Why do you think that was? What's up, Peggy? Good afternoon. Diana Noble says, looking at per output per 1,000 of income, CC is the best value in the universe. Sahid says WNBA was the fastest growing brand in professional sports in 2024. I think the fastest growing brand, period, according to the Morning Consult's data or surveys or whatever. I don't know how exactly you measure that. You know, this is both fair and, like, I don't want to deviate. Rick T says CC effect is real. DT's retirement announcement was big news on mainstream media. So I did a video talking about Taurasi, and somebody went in there. It was, I think, some of the physicality that Taurasi displayed throughout her career, because some of the unrivaled people, they did a big reflection on their favorite Taurasi memories or what they thought of Taurasi, and a lot of them were about being like hip checked or somebody punched in the gut. And I had somebody in the comment section like, what if Caitlin Clark punched someone in the gut? First of all, by the way, being punched in the gut or kind of slapped in the gut is not an uncommon tactic in basketball. I've had it happen to me so many times after releasing a shot. Somebody like smack you there to try and sort of distract you, throw you off your game. But regardless, it was a little irritating to me then. And if I see them in here, I'll talk to them. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Like, it just was a comment in the comment section. But just because I wasn't talking about Caitlin Clark, I was only talking about Diana Taurasi, and there was no reason for Caitlin Clark to come into the conversation. But at the same time, there is some validity to this point in the sense of not that it's, give Caitlin Clark credit for Diana Taurasi's career. That's ridiculous, right? Like, ridiculous. But Taurasi's retirement, certainly a bigger deal because of what happened. I mean, I would say Maya Moore, remember Maya Moore's jersey retirement ceremony? I'd argue that so many people learned who Maya Moore was because of that, right? There are probably a lot of people who learned who Cheryl Swoops was. Maybe not for the best reasons this season, but because of what she said. There are certainly a lot of people who learned who Asia Wilson was this season. And she became a bigger star as a result of that. There's just, so many different ripple effects from that I think are indeed true and fair. Fever are certainly title contenders. Diana, I think camp starts April 27th. I agree with this. Diana Taurasi has an on-air future if she wants it. She also could link up with Sue Bird too, right? I mean, there's the clear history there. Charles 19 member says, I think they're saying they agree about seeing DT as the face of women's basketball. Justin Bono says Ethan Strauss has been on one lately about how the league treated Caitlin. Wonder if he's working on another book. I have no idea. I used to have Ethan on my radio show all the time back when I was on local New York radio. At that point, he was still working for ESPN. He's doing his own thing now, right? Oh, I didn't know that this happened. Keomi McMiller. Look, that situation with her earlier in the year was really weird before the USC game. So I don't have any insight on it, but I would keep my eye on her in the transfer window no matter what anybody said. Like and subscribe to the channel, people. Look, Tulip plays. There are several folks in here that I would say instigate with one another a little bit, but I like the fact that there are differing viewpoints in here, and of that I am much appreciative. So thank you for the like and subscribe message. Some of y'all are talking to each other in the chat, so when I'm looking at, all of this, it's hard for me to sometimes decipher if you're talking to me or each other, which is good. It's a very active chat. Twofold says, "Hey Robin, it seems like the Fever want to sign one more player. Which one you do like?" I don't think they really have the space to sign anybody else. I mean, they might only have a space to sign a draft pick. I'd have to really look at their cap situation hard. But long story short, to answer your question, I don't think there's somebody I can go, oh, they're going to go get them, because they've done enough. Doc Hardy Show, USA versus France was viewed by 19.5 million. Thank you. I think it's the most viewed basketball game this century. I had forgotten about it because it wasn't an NBA game. But you are absolutely correct. And that was a terrific game. By the way, I'm a lifelong NBA fan, so I think Clark is easily bigger than those NFL QBs. Easily. Again, there's a little bit of a difference between I don't think the out in public test necessarily works. Oakland Trap House, just like I was talking to Kevin, only because, when you're a foot taller than somebody, you might be more recognizable. But doesn't mean you're a bigger driver of yourself, of attendance, ratings, interest, talking points. I don't think there's a single NFL player who's even remotely close. Now, and that's knowing that the NFL is the single biggest thing in this country, period. But that's part of the NFL's appeal. They could have the Cardinals play the Colts and people will watch it. Oh, I read your chat for free and it turns out you were right here. But I do believe she is. you're welcome to disagree. I do. The only person in America who I think's on her level is LeBron. And maybe Steph. That's it. I don't think there's a baseball player, unless you're talking Ohtani beyond America. Peggy says, Robin, you need a moderator. As a fan, I don't like being insinuated that I'm a Klan member. Mons are... Peggy, please, apologies in advance, but I don't know what you're... I did not put anything on the screen that says that, did I? Because, of course, you should not hear that, or that shouldn't be told to you, and you've never expressed anything in that regard. But I don't... I'd be sincere apologies if I did, but I really don't believe I put anything close to the screen where it was in public beyond what was said in the chat. And maybe, yes, a moderator would be a good idea as far as just even to police that. But please let me know if I put anything out there. Like I do my best to not signal boost anything that shouldn't be in there. I can't, while I'm live streaming, control what everybody said. But that shouldn't be said to anybody in here. All right, like, let me just make sure. Opposing viewpoints, more than welcome. Back and forth, more than welcome. Good-natured discourse, more than welcome. But please show respect to everybody. Black, white, gay, straight, old, young, international, American, any way in between, please. It's just basketball, and there's no need for anybody to be personally attacked or have things that are just unnecessary said about them. We need to get to 20K before the draft. That's a pretty good goal. I think we can do it, by the way. I do think the chats are entertaining. Look, I do think, other than what I just said, I think we've done a very good job cultivating an audience here that is a broad, spectrum. Justin says, CC fans are upset about how Asia handled the deal, but didn't it work out for her? Was able to guilt trip Nike into prioritizing her. Brilliant move. Well, I don't know what Nike's plans are. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't know how nefarious anything was, or my problem with how Asia handled it was she, through her vagueness and message, kind of fanned the flames of this idea that she was being kicked to the side in favor of Caitlin Clark, which only helped push the narrative around Clark as the season started. And Asia fed into that a lot. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Asia's a terrific player, but she said a lot of strange things that I thought were just off base or unnecessary. The whole, like, my blood boils because people don't realize she's popular because she's white, paraphrasing, and the Kelsey Plum thing that resurfaced about, like, you recognize your privilege and that's what I like about you. And the shit's going to pop off in Indiana comment. And then constantly, like, there's all this stuff I have to deal with and I'm not recognized. And when I feel like Asia Wilson got recognized so much this year, I was told she was the unanimous MVP after the first game of the season. If you said anything else, you should be jettisoned off earth. And she just was in the Time Women of the Year. And so many of these things are deserved, by the way. She deserved. I'm not saying she didn't earn or deserve any of it. I just don't think she helped the discourse with what she said. And I don't know if Nike prioritized her because of it. Who knows what happened there? Because from what we've seen since, her shoe has been in development for a couple years. Cammy9 with an interesting question. Do I think Stewie looks washed? I didn't think Stewie was all that impressive in the playoffs, to be honest with you. Guys, stop with the... I see it in the chat now. We don't need to label... the race shit, just stop it. Knock it off with the race shit. If we want to have like an actual intelligent discussion about race and its role in certain things, but none of this basketball shit we're talking about with Caitlin Clark has anything to do with race. I got my phone just rang through. I got to disconnect it from the computer. But literally every phone call I get is potential spam. I don't want to change my number because I've had it forever. But everything is potential spam. Sorry, just answering something. Old Cremona asks, will Lexi start? I do not believe so. No, I don't think Lexi Holt will start. But we'll see. I mean, if I had to guess, I think the starting lineup is Natasha Howard, DeWanna Bonner, Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. And just like what Lexi Brown said, I think Natasha Howard was the biggest signing. Kimberly says, yes, please stop with the race crap. I'm a 64-year-old white woman with mixed kids and grandbabies. I can see this issue from both sides. Just quit calling the race card. It's getting sickening. Look, again, if race comes up as a serious topic, or, we want to have a serious discussion about a layered discussion, but as somebody who played basketball my whole life, covered basketball my whole professional life, has been the only white guy in so many different rooms in my life that I can not even count, lived as the only white guy in a place of residence, married into a family where the only white guy at many, and that's not all white, black, but some of it is, and some of it isn't. I've never heard race brought up in basketball conversations. I've been told, I'll take the white boy on the basketball court before. Trust me, I've dealt with all that stuff. I was one of the token white boys on my high school basketball team. I went to a high school that was probably about 65% white. I would say 35% black. That would be my rough guess. But I've just never heard it brought up so often and weaponized so often. And I think the media helped with that too. I mean, I think not just the sports media, but the non-sports media. Everybody's heard my bit by now. But with one side saying you cannot talk about Caitlin Clark without recognizing everybody that came before and passing a quiz and giving respect and blah, blah, blah. The WNBA reverence tax, and the other side saying, this league sucks without Caitlin Clark and nobody cares about anybody without Caitlin Clark. Okay, we get it. Right. But then even because of the national championship game and the rookie of the year race, and Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark became synonymous for so long. And I feel like people kept that alive. For reasons beyond just a direct basketball comparison. But regardless, you can look at every metric, and you talk about attendance, you talk about ratings, you talk about everything that comes along with Caitlin Clark. All that popularity came from the root of it due to her basketball abilities. And that's why people are in here. That's why people followed her. Sure, did some people use things for convenient discourse or say, there are wackos all over the place, but it is tiresome. And like I said, if anybody comes at me for what I say about it, I'm done. I'm done with the bullshit. You're not going to crybaby bully me. Like, no. I know who I am, what I'm about. Right? Like, no. I'm sorry. It's insulting to even have that levied in your direction. And to the same token goes to the Clark fan base who, or the trolls, whichever, that went out of their way to say crap to players too. I mean, none of it. Like, just we don't have to ugly it up in here for the sake of it when we can have real conversations. Which I'm always, if it's an actual topic of conversation, if it comes up, if you want to, I've used, where did I just see this in the chat? Eminem before. I mean, I do think, I've called it the Eminem effect to a sense, when it was probably harder for Eminem to break in as a white dude. But then when he did he get more sales because he's a white dude? Likely, right? Like, because there was a bunch of kids who related to him that maybe didn't to the music before, and they bought his record who were listening to Pantera or whatever it was. But it just, the way it got, again, weaponized, I would say is the right word, because of Clark and her overwhelming popularity. I just never heard it in sports like that before, and it didn't apply to her, and it wasn't fair because she is a brilliant basketball player. Like, she is a once in a lifetime kind of talent basketball wise, and she went out and showed it and proved it and did it on the court. So you are gaslighting people if you try to make it about race when the results were there. Thank you, Bobby U. Basil, I didn't see your question. Yes, I think Colson is better than Wheeler because Colson is a better shooter than Wheeler, number one, which is needed to play off of Clark and Mitchell and Boston shooting. I also think she's a better perimeter defender than Wheeler, which I think the Fever lacked. I mean, there was a point in Wheeler's career where Wheeler was certainly better and would be the player you would choose if you needed to give them the lion's share of the minutes or the ball handling responsibilities. But at their current rate and where they fit into the team concept now, I think Colson is better than Wheeler for the Fever, and that's why you see them getting similar deals too. It's not like Wheeler was paid at a close to max deal and now she's not. Colson is very content with her bench role. So, there you have it. Gilberto Garcia, Caitlin Clark, and the Indiana Fever are the show in the WNBA. YouTube comments. They have an all-star team. I mean, look at the same thing with the Aces, though. Again, or the Liberty. It's not any different. I would say, again, yeah, Travis Kelce's probably the NFL player I hear the most about, but Travis Kelce's an awesome NFL player, but it's more because of Taylor Swift. Chuck Miner, again, I'm not avoiding any topic. I will talk about any topic, but there's no need to just throw it around for no reason, is the point. Speak up about what? What would you like me to speak up about? Because otherwise it's an imaginary issue in the context of what we're saying. Again, context matters, application matters, what is actually said matters. I hope you're good, Earthquake. Please like, subscribe, get your comments in. Super chats and member chats read first, like I said. Caitlin Clark, the biggest star of 2024. Accurate. And it, part of the reason Basil, she is a better, I'm talking outside shooter. What did Erica Wheeler shoot from 3 last year? Since this is a basketball question, let me get into it. Boom, boom, boom. Erica Wheeler shot 28.8% from 3 last year. 30.9% from 3 the year before. Sydney Colson shot last year. 37.8% from three and 37.5% from three the year before. So almost 8% better from three the last 2 years. I mean, outside shooters, what I meant. Peggy, thank you so much. And again, I appreciate the support of everybody here. Differing opinions, basketball opinions, other topics are on the table too. I'll talk about whatever you want. Just please treat everybody with the respect that you would want to be treated with in doing so. If you're going to disrespect anybody, at least let it be me. I'd prefer that, not that either, but I can handle it. Justin says CC. Oh, that's the same one. I already read that. Sorry. But thank you, Peggy. Very much appreciate your support. I mean, yeah, there's a chance Caitlin would be bigger. Tulip asked what position I played at. I'm a combo guard in basketball. I'm sure they'll do whatever they can to get as many games as possible on TV. Clash. Let me address this, Chuck Miner. First of all, I was taking your side, but since you asked, let's start in your own fan base. How you sometimes play both sides of the like button when your videos sometimes promote. When have I ever promoted racial division? Give me one fucking example of that, please. Second, I don't play both sides of everything. I give you what I think is the 360 view of how I analyze and think about a situation. I'm not playing any sides. So I find the last part of your comment, that's what I'm talking about with the insulting part. That's insulting to me because I've never done that one time. Ab Scotland says the shooting percent increase is more than 8% because it's relative to EW's percentage, not 100%. I don't know what you're saying exactly there. I do believe it'll be a 3-horse MVP race. Yes, it will be Clark, Nafisa, and Asia for sure. I agree with that. Mo says, I learned today that Nike put Fever Iowa and her high school crest on the back of her retirement jacket. FYI, it was cool to me because I went to Dowling. Oh, that's her high school, right? Clark's high school, Dowling. Brett Atwood says, I wonder if the WNBA app will be the same price as last year. $35 was well worth it. It'd probably be in the same ballpark. Maybe they could get away with a $5 bump and people wouldn't complain so much. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. All right, we're winding down here. I'll give you, another minute or so, a couple minutes to get any other questions, comments, thoughts in. Even when it gets a little feisty or contentious, remember that I do greatly appreciate the audience, fans, community we've been able to cultivate here. I do not take that for granted whatsoever. And I get, we get a lot of folks in here every time I fire one of these up. Even now when there's nothing happening. Like I never lie to you about, there ain't nothing going on right now. It's like this lull before March Madness and before the post free agency. before March Madness in the WNBA season. But you could hit like. That is appreciated. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. All of these things. You got time. I mean, I could put one of those big. I see some of the other videos like subscribe. I just always feel like I don't know. It takes me out personally, but wow, you have 2 Robin alarms. That's pretty cool because that's when you think I'm gonna have most of my content out. Said I could have done some separate videos today, but it was one of those ones I wanted to I figured it was better to do a live stream. All right. Like I said, that'll do it for today. But I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the subscribes. I appreciate the comments. Be back with another live by next week at the latest, of course. Videos will continue to populate the channel. As always, you can check out Women's Fast Break on SI as well in the description. And yeah, Carver Hawkeye Stadium is sold out. That was part of the start of this. Jolly Ong says, watching from the Philippines, I've always liked your objectivity. Keep it up. Robin, thank you. I appreciate it. And Raj Talk, that's my son's channel. His goal is to beat me in subscribers. He had his best basketball game ever the other night, by the way. He had like 22 points. And according to his unofficial tallies, I think he said 8 rebounds and 6 assists. But he definitely had a good game. Basil, what answer do you want? I mean, how is Sydney Colson not a better 3-point shooter, outside shooter than Erica Wheeler? What's your response to that? I don't understand. How is she not a better outside shooter? I'm not talking about like primary ball handler scorer per se, but even if you consider that, like field goal percentage, she has a higher career field goal percentage and a higher career 3-point, or their 3-point percentage is damn near the same. But if you look at the last 2 years, it's significantly higher for Colson. She had 1 year where she shot 19%, and the next year 20%. In 2016 and 2017, but the last few years she's been near 40%. So I guess I don't understand what you're saying. How long you want me to go for, Justin? When there's more to talk about, we'll go longer. But I'm still here now. I haven't even ended the show. I mean, I've told you I'm ending it soon, but I haven't even ended it. Thank you, Joseph. All right, y'all. I mean, I know the one person just said it should be longer, but I really don't have much else for you. If you bring, I can hang around for another minute for some of the comments, but I feel like an hour is not bad. What's the appropriate? Let me ask you that. What is the appropriate live stream length? What do you guys like as the length for a little live stream? It's not like I'm doing 5 minutes. There we go. 45 minutes to an hour, good. 40 minutes. All right, so I'm already over all that. Oh, according to Nate Jones, who is Damian Lillard's agent, Nike delayed CC shoes because they're worried about backlash. Thoughts? Is that exactly correct? I think what you're referencing was the show he did with Ethan, and they were still speculating from what I understand in that show. And I'm not saying it's not true. I don't know if it's true. It very trust me, like some of these corporations were always so clearly worried about offending people or being politically correct or inclusive or whatever way you want to look at it. So is it a possibility that Nike was worried about the backlash after that? Yes. And that's what they articulated in that episode. But I do think that was either speculation or informed speculation, not an actual report. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But that's how I understood it. Look, it's certainly something I don't think is a wild theory. Let me put it that way. The way that the discourse went around the WNBA. But at the same time, Clark's shoes are coming. We just saw Nike put out the ad around her. And again, Clark doesn't even need to be promoted. That's the thing. I always say she just needs to not be crapped on. She's the easiest person in the world to promote. And as soon as her shoes are on sale, they're going to, it's going to be bananas. It is going to be bananas. All right, y'all. That will, in fact, do it for me. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. I appreciate the interaction, and hugs for everyone. Yeet.